Hello, John Talley here with Boats.net, and welcome back to the next video in our rebuild series of a 2004 Yamaha F225. As you can see, we've made some progress. We've got the engine put back together for the most part. We've got our wiring harness laid in, but now we need to turn our attention to the fuel system. This machine has been setting up for a long time, obviously, if you've been watching any of these videos, and I feel confident that the inside of this VST tank is going to be a mess. But we haven't opened it up yet, so I have no idea what parts are going to be required. I can tell you it's only going to take basic tools to get this done. So speaking of tools, let me go open up my toolbox and then we can dive into this project. So let's get these throttle bodies out of the way. I'll open up that VST tank. I cannot wait to see what's going on inside of it. Now, if you don't own one of these, I suggest you get one because it's the only tool I know of that can actually have a chance of pulling these out. Little shock to the system and they'll come right out most of the time. I am pleasantly surprised so far. It's not as bad as I was expecting. So it's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be in there. What we're going to do is get some contact cleaner, carburetor cleaner, and then start cleaning it out, inspecting all the O-rings, look at the hoses, see if any of them are cracked or need to be replaced. And then we can put it back together and actually get it on the machine and maybe test it. So let's get started. So as I said, everything's looking pretty good in here so far, but looks can be deceiving. We're going to pull down each component and see if we can do a bench test. I just want to put a little bit of power to it, see if the motor actually turns, which I kind of expect it to. Now when you're doing this, we are messing with something that was just immersed in gasoline, so the slightest little spark has the potential to start a fire, so you need to be very aware of that when you're making connections if you choose to do a bench test of the individual pumps. Just want to make that clear. Things can go south in a big hurry. I want to take a quick peek at our high pressure pump. For the most part it's empty of fuel, but it'll be pulling in from this side and pushing it out that way, so we want to make sure that's actually facing away from us. And it's actually marked up top as to which one's positive and negative. Let's see what we've got. Yep. It appears that this pump is still functional, so we're going to try to use it. What we are going to do is replace the pickup, which has a filter built into it, as well as the input, which goes into this plate, also has like a rubber collar. But over time, that rubber will break down and almost turn it into a jelly and then stop up the whole system. So we're in here, now is the best time to go and replace all these different seals, filters, as well as O-rings. So let's keep going. Let's dump it out and see if there's any, just old gas. Kind of had a yellow tinge to it. But honestly, that's really as clean as you get. The hoses still feel okay. I don't see any splitting on them. They are getting a little bit stiff. I'm not super wild about the clamps showing some rust because that's not going to improve over time. I think what we're going to do here is go ahead and pull the hoses off, and I am going to end up replacing those. Because when it comes to your fuel system, a small leak starts a fire, and I don't want to be that guy. When you're dealing with older hoses like this, if you just grab it from the side and just squeeze it, twist it a little bit just to get it broken loose, that'll make it easier to get it pulled off. Okay, let's go ahead and test our low pressure pump with it still attached to the bracket so it doesn't try to jump on us. All right. Color coded, red and black, making it easy for me. Let's see what she's got. That isn't sounding super healthy. Tell you what, just for fun, we're going to open up a new one and take a listen to it, because that doesn't sound right to me. Let's see what a new one sounds like. So yes, they sound a whole lot different. So guess which one's going to go on the engine? It's going to be this one. If yours sounded like that other one, you probably need to order one of these as well. Now we're definitely going to go ahead and replace the low pressure or the lift pump, and then we'll go ahead and reinstall our existing high pressure pump along with the new filter and the new seals. We're just transferring over these little rubber dampeners. Then clamp it back down. Pop it back in here so we're not chasing it around the table. Yeah, I think this one's been in here since day one. Look, it was broken right here. So that was a leak waiting to happen. Got a little bit of corrosion on the inside of this little ridge or channel. So let's get it scraped out, and then I'm going to spray out the whole thing, because everything I'm scraping out, some of it's going into the tank, and it doesn't need to be there. Much better. Our pump has a filter on the bottom of it, which is this, and then up top it has a rubber grommet that goes into the housing that is the top of the VST tank. So we're going to replace both of those. Yeah, huge difference. This is like a brick compared to the new one. And we need to spray that out a little bit. Yeah, it's like a brick compared to the new one. Done, done, done. It's like, it may look all right from the outside, but once you actually pull it apart and get to actually feel it, you can tell that it was time to do this. Now, if you know that you're going to replace a hose and it just will not release, take a knife and just slit it down the side where it actually intersects on the brass. Don't push so hard that you actually scar the brass, but now it should release. Yeah, that hose had it. Right, that needle, little needle valve, which is attached to this float, it looks to be in good shape, but I still want to pop it out and look at the actual tip of it to make sure it's not pitted anywhere. So let's do that. That looks good, stainless. It's kind of cool that Yamaha actually has this needle seat where you can remove it if it was damaged, but it actually looks good. And our needle in this one has a rubber end. What you want to feel for is to make sure it's not split. So you hold it like this and just kind of push the tip at 90 degrees to make sure it doesn't open up anywhere. This one looks good to go. So let's slide it back in its channel. Make sure you put your pin back in the same direction it came out. and in the same orientation. I think it was about right there. You can't tap this very hard. You run the risk of snapping this edge. This has a fair amount of scale and gunk down inside. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and pull that apart, because if I keep messing around, I'm going to end up bending that tab, and then that float's not going to be where it's supposed to be. So let's take that back off. There, we're going to see if we can balance it on this little oil pan. And we're going to fill that little cavity with some carburetor cleaner / dip. Let it sit, do its job. That should break it free. Let that set for a while, then we'll come back and see if we can get it cleaned up. And welcome back. It's actually been sitting for a day or so, and it seems that the carb dip has done its job and gotten this reasonably cleaned up. So now I think we can actually just spray it down with some contact cleaner and get it put back together. Much better. Still not perfect, but much better. All I'm doing now is just cleaning up the surface where this O-ring is going to go on this top half. Just had a little bit of a corrosion from the previous one. Want to get that all scraped off, make sure it's smooth. That way it will seal up properly. While I was ordering parts, I did decide to go ahead and replace the float needle in its seat, since it is replaceable on this. I mean, the one I took off looked good, but it's cheap insurance. We're going this far on the engine, why not go ahead and do it? That way we're 100% sure that this is not going to leak when we put it back together. So our new pieces, we'll lay that out to the side for a moment, get the seat in. And then it just has this little bracket that has to go back and hold it in place. I'll put in this new, I guess you call it a grommet. Make sure it's all the way down flush. Getting our needle in place. Now we can get our pin back in. Looks like it. Let's bring it in to seat it. That should do. Now we can plug in our pump, which we're going to reuse the original one. Get that output pressed in. It looks like it. All right, so it's good to go. Let's go ahead and get our new O-ring on. Make sure it's seated in the groove all the way around, because we don't want it to ride up and then get pinched when we put the top half on. I think that's got it. Now let's lower it in. We've got our tank back together. Now it's time to take a look at all these hoses and determine if I'm going to replace them or reuse them. What I'm looking for is to make sure it's still pliable and doesn't have any cracks on the ends. So the hoses for the most part look okay, but I'm not really excited about these clamps. They are pretty rusty, and I think they're going to be failing soon. So we're going to go ahead and replace those. Now these on the end, these smaller ones, when they're split, or I had to cut them to get them off, what you can do is just cut back and then reuse them. You can probably get away with doing that once or twice, but then after that, it's going to be a little too short and you'll have to replace them. But I think for the most part, we can reuse most of these. So let's start replacing clamps and then look at the photos and get everything put back the way it was. This whole setup is made up of like 3 different style clamps. You've got some that are compression, you've got some that are actually almost like spring tension, and there's 3 different sizes of those. So my advice is do them one at a time. That way you won't get lost as to what goes where. All right, definitely going to need this special tool to crimp that. Love the way these work, so clean. Cool. Neat how they send them out. They're already compressed. You just pull that retaining clip and on they go. Much better. Well, it looks like we have all this plumbing back together. So let's go ahead and get this assembly mounted back to the engine. These are our 4 bolts that we need to get to. And while we're here, there's a water inlet on the top of this cooler that we should go ahead and take care of now, because it's going to be almost impossible to get to once I get this in place. That gets routed up through here. You plug in there. Here. We've got our VST tank mounted up. We've got most of the plumbing done, most of the electrical, but now we need to take a look at the throttle bodies. More importantly, we need to look at the injectors, because if they match the rest of this engine, and they probably will, they're going to need to be looked at, make sure the seals are good, and then see if they, well, are still flowing correctly or not. So let's grab those, head over to the teardown bench, and pull them apart. For the most part, the hoses still feel okay. Just a bit gritty, but what I'm concerned with are the seals on the injectors themselves. So what I want to do is go ahead and pull the fuel rails, get those injectors out, and then reassess. I mean, at the very least, I think we need to replace the seals, especially the ones going up to the fuel rail, and go from there. Let's see if she'll pull off now. There we go. Yeah, they're kind of hard. They're supposed to be really pliable. So we've got the first 3 injectors pulled out, it doesn't look too bad, but I do want to get this cleaned up. But to clean the injectors, I'm going to need a special tool to do so. The one I'm going to use is actually made by Motion Pro. And what this uses is just a 9-volt trigger source associated with some carburetor cleaner. It triggers the actual injector, and then you can flush the carburetor cleaner straight through the injector. So let me get this set up on one of them, and I'll show you how it works. Just a little bit of silicone spray to make it easier for that to go in there. Yeah, I think this will work. When you're tightening this down, you don't have to really put a lot of torque on it. You're just basically holding the injector still. That's all that needs to be accomplished. Plug this in and get my fishbowl over here so you can see what happens. The trick when you're doing this is not to hold the injector open for long. You just want to do small pulses, and you want to have those synchronized. So I think these can be saved pretty easily. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and clean this last one, then pull the other three, clean all of those, then get these actual throttle bodies cleaned up a little bit. Then I'm going to order new O-rings and seals for the injectors. When they come in, then we'll put it all back together. I'm not really excited about that crack right here, so I'm going to go ahead and replace this one. The rest of them I'm going to reuse. So next on the agenda, I'm going to carry both of the throttle bodies and the intakes over to the parts washer, see if I can get them cleaned up a little bit, get those parts ordered, and then we can put it back together. Well, we have all our new seals and our one injector that we're actually going to replace. So with it all laid out on the table, let's start putting it back together. The first thing we're going to do is replace all of our O-rings and our seals on our existing injectors, and then we're going to get them installed into the fuel rail and get it bolted back together. Nothing all that technical about this. Just remove the old O-rings and seals, pop on the new ones. When you're doing this, make sure there's no corrosion or any type of debris in between the injector and these little O-rings. All right, we're about to get our injectors installed into the fuel rail and the intakes. I want to use a little bit of silicone spray to make it easier for those O-rings to guide in. It takes a little bit of effort to get these in there. I think I'm going to use a glove the next time around. One more spray on the other O-rings. Then off we go. Get our spacers in. Just get it started. Let's use our bolts to go ahead and bring everything down. There we go. That's looking good. One bank down, one more to go. There you have it. Let's get the bench out of the way and get these bolted back up to the engine. I had to go get the dowels out of the previous head and transfer them over to here. So give me a second to get that done and we'll get everything mounted back up. So let's get her closed up. There she goes. Everybody's in there just hand tight. Let's go ahead and get these snugged down. Everything's tightened down. Let's go ahead and make our electrical connections. Gets a little tight with the injector connections. I believe that's our fuel pump. Get our fuel line. Next, let's get the throttle linkage in place. Let's get our fuel pump cable, and it goes to that little attachment point right here. Let's go and get the intake over on the opposite side. It's basically the same game as what we just did. There we go. Be careful there. I actually let the gasket slide over a little bit and get off that dowel, so don't make that same mistake. All right, this harness looks okay. I don't think we need to do any rewrapping on it. Go ahead and get our linkage over here before it gets covered up. Go ahead and reconnect our fuel lines, our cross connects rather. Slowly but surely, she's starting to fall together. All right, sometimes we end up having to take one step backwards to go forwards. This is one of those cases. When I installed the flywheel, I forgot to put this vent pipe, and it actually mounts on these two bolts and sits in there roughly like this and then goes to the intake plenum. So we're going to back up a little bit. We're going to take off the flywheel, get this mounted up, and then we'll continue. All right, with that bolt out of the way, we just need to put on a puller and get it removed. No big deal. There she goes. Now, we just need to remove these two bolts, get that vent line in place, then put it back together. Order of operations, very important sometimes. Now let's get it back on there. And keep in mind, the magnets are going to try to pull it in, so don't get your fingers under it, otherwise they'll get pinched. There we go. Now we're going to use our holder. Definitely going to extend it out all the way, because we have to take this nut to 174 foot-pounds without throwing out my back. Woohoo! Fun stuff. Next, let's go ahead and get our intake silencer set up. The seals that they had, or well, you can look at them, they're cracking, falling apart. And we've gone this far, we're gonna go ahead and make sure it's perfect. So let's get these off and get the new ones put on. So no great trick to these, just peel them off. We'll get the new ones put on, then get these installed. So now that we've got our seals on, what we're gonna do is put both of our silencers together, get these new zip ties put on, and then we'll put on both pair as an assembly. Makes it a lot easier than trying to do it after the fact and get these boots to line up. And trying to do all of that when it's already mounted, you really can't pull it off. So next, let's get a couple of zip ties, put those around the boots, and then we put the whole assembly on. Now to make these easier to get in, we're going to spray them down with a little bit of silicone. one is an assembly. So basically you only have 4 bolts or nuts holding it in place. 2 nuts up here and then a couple of bolts here and here. And once you get 1 or 2 of those started, it'll start to shimmy its way in. One up top, and one down low. Get this little crossover pipe in place. So we had 2 nuts up here, then 2 bolts here and here for this side, and we just had the same thing to do on the other. All right, now let's get our cover on and we will almost be through with this part anyway. All right, campers, this pretty much wraps up this build. What's going to happen next? Well, I need to address the corrosion issue with the exhaust before I can get the power head ring mounted. Now, if you'd like to see that happen, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll be notified when we release the video. Until then, we just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at boats.net, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.